So, I wrote what I called, let's see, you remember what I called it? No, you remember what I called it, because I sent you several copies, didn't I? And she emailed me back, she says, I'm lost. Because each one might have had a few words that changed. I said, well, no, this is the final, this is the final, this is the final. Because I wanted to boil down something that was fair and equitable to everyone going up there before they went up there, to know what was going to happen when they got up there and what they are entitled to and what they're not, and how we're going to get it and why. Well, the why is you don't want to have to work at the cruddy job you've got the rest of your life. You'd like to pick what you can work at that's something you like, which is the whole objective of trying to find something or get into an endeavor that's going to make you independently wealthy. Does that make sense? Which is what everyone out there in the air everywhere wants. And that's probably why treasure hunting is so exciting and so appealing, because that's a quick way to get rich fast and tell the puppeteers of the world that you're cutting their string and screw you. No more, you're not using me anymore. I'm not going to be out of your servitudinal plan. Okay? That makes sense? Y'all want to do that? That's what you're here for, right? That's important. Okay, so the other key thing that we received from all of this is, okay, how do I do it? How do I get my own claim, number one? Because you're not going to want to be running around on my claims all the time, because there's going to be a limit how much you can get there. If you got your own claim, there's no limit, right? And that, of course, is important too to you. So this is the United States Department of Interior Bulletin. All right? And it's a lot of pages. And in these pages is a detailed description, legally, which is important, of exactly how to file your claim, what you have to do.
What's that called again?
Well, it's
I'll look at it when you're through.
the whole thing, which includes something a lot more besides that. But you can get the United States Department of Interior, Bureau of Land Management,
I'll get that.
in reply to
Sorry.
3833 UT 9223. So that means you can go to Salt Lake or any Bureau of Land Management on that. This has got Utah on it though, so probably the other states, it'll probably have a different thing there. But they'll know what you're talking about, because you tell them you just want the pamphlet, you know, the thing they sent me to. I filed a claim. The claim I filed was covering the last remaining part of the Hoyt Canyon Fault, so that now I've got the whole fault claim, plus 3,000 feet on every side. So that pretty well covers it. But and they send you this as a reminder of what you have to do to keep it and maintain it and all that stuff. So it's good stuff. It's what any good mine owner wants if he wants to continue to be a mine owner. But it's got how to plot out everything. The only thing it doesn't have is how to make your stakes. And of course, if you go on Google Earth Pro, and they've recognized their GPSs, ground, what does GPS mean?
Global positioning.
Global Positioning Satellite.
Yeah.
So it's a free download. You get Pro. And so you can actually find the U.S. Geological Survey marker. You can actually locate, it'll be indicated in this stuff here, or the survey will, to where you have to start measuring all of your distances. And so once you've got that, you've got a GPS of it, then you locate it with this thing, and you put your claims. You have to show on a map, and I thought, well, okay, if you don't have it on the map exactly right, then that voids the whole claim. That's not true. The coordinates are the important thing. And so, and this was directly from one of their attorneys. They said, well, if it's off from, you made a mistake on your GPS, and it's not right exactly on, as long as it's within the vicinity, we assume, you've got the claim there. We know from the actual coordinates on the form that says from this point, which is the geological, or the United States Geological Survey waypoint, that you've got so many feet this way, 600 feet, you got 1,500 feet this way, you've got 600 feet here, you got 1,500 feet there, and you've got a monument in the middle. So, and that's all in writing on your notice of location, which it tells you how to fill out. And if you still screw up, these people are pretty nice. What they'll do is their attorney will come down, who's the one that determines whether you've done it legally or not. She looks at it, and then she checks it up with her records. And if you're wrong, she'll say, you've got to amend this. And this is what you have to do to amend it. This is where it's wrong. And so it's not like if you get in there and you file it wrong, you've wasted all your time. That makes sense? Okay. So you'll have a legitimate claim if you do all that. Okay.
So working under your claim, it's okay that we're safe to work in?
Hell yes, I own the claim.
Just
Of
curious,
course.
because we
If
keep
I
talking
say
about-
you can work under my claim it's gonna be a written express agreement with, that's very mutually beneficial, clear, and everybody knows exactly what they're doing. Before they even go up, they're gonna know where they stand with me on my claims. And I'm the claim holder, and I list on this disclosure, this full disclosure thing that you all have, exactly what the claim number is, what BLM office it's in, and then you can go on their website and pull up a picture of each claim and all of the details. So you can confirm exactly where my claims are, where they're staked, and what I've got up there for contiguity rights. So yeah, and so this is a unique situation in that you're not just wandering around in the neighborhood trying to hide from Smokey the Bear, because
So we're going to a location, and you have a pretty good hunch that you're the treasure's there, and we're gonna help you dig it out?
based on all the ancient documents and all of the landmarks, and not just the documents, but all of the old trails that go right to it, right past it, and go to an Arista and then go to the smelter. Those trails didn't create themselves over hundreds of years. And so they were obviously made by someone. Now, I don't know, it takes several hundred years for them to grow, and they're all dead now.
Yeah.
The beetles got them. Because our Forest Service decided, as I understand it, to use a beetle that would mate with the ones that were doing the harm, and all the offspring would be neutered. So they thought, well, that's a good idea. That's the story, you know that story. Didn't happen, they got
Whoops.
more promiscuous than the other ones. And so they screwed up. So they and their own way of doing things, as I understand it, destroyed millions of board acre feet of
Prime timber,
timber.
prime.
Now, all that means is that the Forest Service isn't invincible. Okay? We all make mistakes. They had good intentions, so, and they tried. And the others would have probably eaten them all anyway, sooner or later, so probably.
Well, I think they have a story that kind of makes them feel like it wasn't their fault too. There's always a way out. They made.
Yeah,
I
because
can't remember
they've
now,
got to
but
have
that's
a
the
way out, or
story.
they won't.
It wasn't our fault,
Yeah, they might
stupid
not.
beetles.
Yeah, that's right.
Something, they blamed it on something else.
So, our seminars will repeat this stuff. So, I'm just telling you what agencies are there for your disposal, so you don't have to depend solely on me as to, is my claim valid? If you go someplace else you go out, you're prospecting, and you happen to run onto a treasure trove. You didn't go there to look for the treasure trove, you want to get the mine. So then when you find the treasure trove, you can tell them where to go, because you have other exceptions as to what is going to be the procedure by which you keep what you found, okay? And it's right in their own report. You can read it as to what and when that treasure trove permit is not necessary, okay? That's the way I see it. That's to my best ability. And you, in this agreement that you signed, it says that's to my best ability, and I'm licensed in the state of Utah as a mining consultant. And as far as I know, that's what you do. Now, that's from my 10 years of experience with them, and it's probably the case, but you still, under your own due diligence requirement, should make sure that it's solid, rock-hard evidence that you've got, okay? Because, hell, you go out there, you find your acre of diamonds, your gold pot at the end of the rainbow, and you're set for life, and then you listen to Gary Holt, and he screwed you up. I don't want to be blamed for that. Okay, that makes sense?
Got a question.
Go ahead.
If I was to find a old mine entrance, a tunnel that was covered up,
Yeah.
would I file a claim on that, or would I get a treasure trove permit?
Treasure trove has nothing to do with old mine entrances. A treasure trove is you've got some Native American jumped out from the back of a tree someday and said, hey, you look like the kind of guy I'd like to see get rich. There's a lot of gold from the Spanish right over there under that tree. You can see that turtle that's been carved on it with a tail. You just follow where that tail points, you dig up 13 feet or 5 feet or 2 feet, you're gonna find gold bars.
Okay.
So then you go to the ranger and you say, hey, this Native American, he's not gonna believe you anyway, but anyway, he'll probably issue you something. It's gonna cost you $200, and he's still gonna have to check it out, and it spells out a whole bunch of things. He's gonna run you through a bunch of hoops, okay? But you don't do that.
So you file a claim on
You
it.
file your claim.
Now, to file a claim
So-
on it, do you
so
have to
then you're
have?
not, he can't jump out of the back of another tree, with his Smokey the Bear hat on and say, you trespass. You're not really looking for you're not prospecting or mining. You don't even have a claim here. So I'm gonna give you a citation saying that you are treasure troving without a permit. So of course you file a claim. Now the claim's gonna cost you $13 at the county seat, and you've got 90 days, and then it's a claim. You put
So
your money
in order
down.
to file
So
a
you
claim-
legally have a claim, you've got it, you file it in the county, and it says, yeah, you got this is your property, and so then you could go to this ranger and say, I got a claim. Because all they have is surface jurisdiction. And the 1872 mining law has precedent over anything they do as far as mining is concerned, except if you're gonna disrupt the surface, more than 5 acres is one of the conditions, and hell, to dig out an old mine, not gonna do that. Then, and under their 36 CFR 228.4, it says you can do that without even notifying them. So you're gonna know whether you got a mine, you found it, and you're not gonna have to tell them about it until you have. And the only reason you're gonna have to tell them is you might have to run a road to it that's gonna be on their surface to take the ore out, to take it to the smelter or whatever, to get paid, because once you've got it down to a concentrate, which you can have a lot of different companies do, then you can take that by the truckload to one of these smelters that are happy to do it for a percentage, and they'll give you a check right at the gate where you weigh it for how much they know is in gold or silver there. That's neat.
Yeah.
That's called reclaiming America. That's not, the Chinese won't do that. They're not gonna come over to do that because they ain't citizens. And neither is Queen Elizabeth. She's already got too much of Rio Tinto, and the Chinese have got too much of the iron mine in Cedar City, and who the hell knows what else all over our country.
Nevada.
And I researched that, and I found that under the 1872 mining law, only citizens can make claims. And a lot of these mines are not, they're not entitled to. But in 1986, they amended that to say, okay, so the owner of the claim can lease or sell part of his claim to a foreign entity under certain conditions. So that's how they got around it. And it's very strange because that was about the time I think we owed the Chinese a lot of money and they wouldn't take our dollar, you know? And all of a sudden, they have the right to sew up our natural resources in violation, as I consider it, and sedition, the 1872 mining law. And
That's one reason everybody should be interested in 1872 mining law, because they've tried several times to get rid of it.
That's
Because
right.
it supersedes a lot of the things they want to do. And so far it's failed, but if you keep an eye out and they try it again, then you need to start writing your congressman or
Well, the more
somebody.
people that have claims, the more it's being used, the less chance they're gonna have to do it, because then everyone will know it's a popular law.
Mhm.
It's not something like prohibition, where, you know, where everybody wanted to drink and they were drinking anyway, you know. It's not like that, you know. So, any questions about that?
if you find that tunnel off his claims, that's not on.
Oh, I realize that, that's
But it-
his,
but it-
everything, yep, there's his.
Well, if you find something that is not on his claim, but it goes on his claim, then that ends right there.
Well, no, it ends 3,000 feet from that.
Well, it ends-
on each side.
It ends when it hits your.
So I've got 100 acres up there under claim, but I got 600 acres if you add all the contiguity area, which is primarily the 80 or 90% of that whole gold field, that subterranean gold field, that low sulfidation epithermal vent process, that geological event that occurred millions of years ago.
You said
Yeah,
something.
I was thinking of a different area when I'm
Oh, I know.
talking about.
And the other part of it is 1/3 of our country was mined by the Spaniards. So they have all of these mines, and most of them, they didn't have equipment like we do at Rio Tinto.
They didn't need it.
Well, yeah, they could have gotten a lot more gold if they had it, but we hadn't invented anything to make it possible. So they had to follow fissures. They had to tunnel down to where they had a cavern or something, a cave-like system, which is what it is up there. And that was the case all over. You don't find any tailings because they didn't have their slaves. They couldn't go down and hard rock mine with a hand tool and go 800 feet down to where the gold is and bring it back out in any 1 or 2 centuries. And so that didn't happen. What they did was follow natural anomalies. And so, and when they hit it, when they covered it over, which is what it said in the waybill, they just covered it over. And so they made it look exactly like the rest of the terrain, whether it was horizontal on a pit or off the side of the hill or something. That's why you can't find them. But you can find the ore if you go out there, because they spilled some around the mine, and locate it by way of that, and then with a ground positioning radar, you can find out exactly where the little opening is, the portal. that was described by our friend Garcia in the waybill.
Well, that's gotta be marked in some way for them to come back and find it, wouldn't you think?
I don't think so. I think that was all, that's all, I think that is probably, I don't know anybody that's found any that way that I've talked to. And the reason is someone gave us a report that was in the Salt Lake Tribune or Deseret News in 1898 about these two children that were kidnapped by the Utes over in Colorado or whatever, the Fremont Indians or whatever they are over there. And this chief befriended them as children and raised them as his own. And then when he got old, knew he was going to die, he figured, well, we're not going to be able to get this gold, or we can't, whatever reason he did, he said, I want to take you to the Josephine. So they started heading west from the Colorado plateau, which is where his tribe was. And along the way, he started getting worse. This is the story. And it's available. We have it. I can punch it in. You can read it for yourself. And he said, well, he says, I don't think I'm going to make it. He said, but he says, you'll never find it. He says, I'm sorry. He says, I can't even really describe it. I just remember it as a child. And so that would have been in Garcia's time. He was a child. So he would be aware of the fact that the Pueblo revolt 100 years earlier had run all the Spanish off except the ones in the peripheral areas, and of course that would be up in Utah. And that's where the Utes would have to have dealt with them, and they did. And the waybill said they did. They killed all but 7 of them out of a party of 40. And those had to get out of Dodge. And so they were leaving their gold with description for other parties to come back to get it. So it wasn't abandoned, or it was abandoned, but it wasn't lost. They didn't lose it. And we've got a document that says how they can come back and find it. So bottom line was, as he says, and the reason you're never going to find any of them, and there's hundreds of them all over, the whole West, is because the only reason we let them go out with their lives, with their skin, was they promised to destroy, reclamate, if you want to say. That's called ancient reclamation, with a little bit more penalty if you don't do it than getting fined like they would now. Destroy any of your presence whatsoever. We're talking about your processes for processing the ore, which would be a smelter, and any of your trails, any of your buildings, anything. We want it totally taken away. And if you don't do that, and you start taking off back to where you came from, Mexico, where the Spanish were still in Mexico City when Garcia was there, you'll never make it. We'll massacre you. And there's several stories about them, certain groups getting massacred. One of them was up in Vernal because they were putting their gold, I guess, in and you leave your gold. You leave it here, it's not yours, it's a Great Spirit's. So they had to leave their gold. They had to destroy any possibility of their presence, and that guaranteed safe passage out of the tribes, the Indian nations' territory. So understanding the truth about what happened based on something that had nothing to do with anything we do, but you can say that was something. It was in the paper, and these kids, of course, they were let loose, and they went, I guess, over to Utah or whatever, to Salt Lake, and told their story to the Deseret News about where they came from and what had happened to them. So that's pretty credible stuff. And the proof in the pudding is that you can't find any tailings any place that I know of. You don't find any remnants of their smelter process, and you don't find, if any structures. And yet they were in the 1/3 of the United States for over 300 years. If they left in a haste, and it was all right with it, with their hosts that are no longer wanting to be hosts, you'd think they would have left something that would have been here. So that's credible evidence. That gets into the category of, but that means to you, you're not going to find anything that's going to do anything but probably when you're out there with your metal detector, you run into some high-end gold ore or something, or a bar that spilled over, that most of them are going to be probably in the mines, so to speak, the cave mines, because they're not mines the way we know them. There was no hard rock mining going on. They were just following fissures down to the level where they could run into it. And if it was a bloom, it was up here. So it came up igneously. So they could follow it, and they just follow it down as they got richer. So either way, that way, or having to go down at a 45-degree angle to where the boiling zone was for a metamorphic process, is what you're going to have to do. And so you're going to find it up here, parts of it. You're going to go into the BLM and get a claim. Then you're going to go back, and then you can say, too bad, Forest Ranger. I'm going to tell you my joke to make you a happy guy instead of thinking you're going to arrest me, or you won't arrest me. It's a simple trespass. And so here's my joke. Why did Smokey the Bear never have any children? And he's going to say, because he's got a Smokey the Bear hat on, right? He's going to say, I don't know why. And he says, well, every time she went in the heat, he hit her with a shovel. And that ought to give him the right attitude about your attitude about him. That let's make this a funny, happy thing, not something where you think, you know, you've got some kind of semi-servitudinal authority over me and my right to reclaim my country, especially our natural resources that your government hasn't done a very good job of because they borrowed too damn much money from too many people that won't take your Ponzi script. And so you had to start giving them our gold and our silver and our copper and everything else. Shame on you, you know. So we're here, we're not going to leave, and we're not going to let any more of your turncoats claim and then lease to a foreign country our treasure. Did I show you the Arista?
For that, maybe I'm.
No, I don't
I'm
think
getting
I
it-
did.
Maybe I'm getting it
This is
wrong.
what convinced me that it was the real deal. Because until I could get all the coordinates perfect, where the waybill and what I could see on the ground are the same, it was all just legend. But when I found that, and then everything measured from that, which was the thing that wasn't put in the waybill, is that what you measure from, the reason there wasn't is because somebody could have gotten a hold of that waybill, and if they described where your starting point is, then it may not be the miners, they want to go there to get their gold. So that's why that was important. And if you think like they did, you know, we're going to file this in Mexico City, and it's going to be, you know, top secret, but what the hell, when we're talking about $1 billion worth of gold in our thing, there might be a few government employees that are going to decide that we don't give a shit. You know? So they would have, the mining community would have known exactly where to start. And the Native Americans would have allowed them to leave that because it's too damn hard to hide. Because anything you did, it's a depression, it's an oval, and there's two poles here, the pole across here, the pole going down here, and then a pole going this way. And on one side is a big rock, and on the other side are the slaves or the donkeys, and they walk around like this, and they grind the ore underneath it that's got a rock bottom and rock sides, so that it's all crushed, so when they take it to the smelter, they just cook it. And that's the process. That's basically the mining process. So that's what they left. And I don't think the Native Americans thought that was too bad. They probably didn't, they figured, well, if they start to try to cover the damn thing, it's gonna be obvious. So we'll leave it like it is, so somebody might just think it was an alien that landed. No, I don't know what they thought. But I think that's the only thing that probably, and that's probably the thing you'll find in all these other mining fields, is something like that. That answer your question? So I'm gonna show it to you.
That's the part that Forest Service covered in.
No,
Oh, that's
that has
not,
nothing to do with,
that's the portal there though, isn't it?
yeah, it was the portal that they covered over. And it was a vertical portal over that case because it was a cliff face.
Well, isn't that the place where we want to go down and dig out the cave in and get back into the timbers that are supposed to be covering all
Absolutely,
of that? That's
yeah.
what I'm after.
Yeah, because that's where Schaefer found that gold bar that we showed, 40 feet inside the mine. And my research discovered that that's not one of the dory bars. That's the claim holder's title that he leaves in the mine so that anyone coming from their group knows that it's his gold, and a map of the mine is what that bar was. And that's why he was able to find it in there with his metal detector.
And he hasn't gone any further. He never saw the timbers that you know of.
Yeah, they
Because
went
it
in.
should have been right there.
They went in, but it was sealed in at about 150 feet, which means that you put horizontal logs up like this, and then you build up a matrix of dirt and rock where it looks like it was a cave-in. And so then nobody would want to try to dig over the cave-in because it might come down even more. So that would mean that anyone that wasn't entitled to go back where the gold was, that would be discouraged. And
I
that's
thought that
all.
diagram you had showed that it was 30 feet in is where the timbers were.
130 feet,
Oh, it was
132 feet.
Oh,
That's what the
it was.
waybill said.
Yeah.
But that's basically the same thing that would be in all the mines. Because that's what they call sealing the mine. So, and that's why they call it a thick wooden door. Yeah, hell yeah, it was 12 feet of timbers going this way, of course it was, very thick. You know, but their definition of thick wooden door wasn't one like this that you could have with a hinge.
No,
That's
it's
that's what that meant.
12 feet thick, huh?
Well, it's
Soon as we
12,
get
12
there,
feet of horizontal logs that are
Oh,
like this
12
way
feet.
stacked on each other.
No, that should-
And then on this side, which is the entrance side, they would have camouflaged it with rocks and dirt and stuff that where it looked like it was a cave-in. See?
That's where I'm going. Somebody can use my metal detectors and walk the trails.
There's probably 100 of those up there,
Hmm.
because they mined it for 500 years. The Aztecs mined it, but they didn't probably seal it. The Spanish were the ones that probably did that part. Maybe.
Well, from what I understand from all of this is got a good opportunity to go up with Gary, but been trying to get our own mining claims and stuff to surround his or just anywhere through the United States, that we need to keep our mineral resources under our own American citizen ownership and not be leasing it out to other countries and stuff like that just to pay off a debt that we can't pay off right now. And that Gary's given us some good information on where to go and what paperwork to fill out. And so we can, I'm thinking of basically piggybacking off of where he goes, and let's see how much of that mountain range up there we can pick off between ourselves and own everything up there, and so that nobody else can go up there and take it away from us and give it to somebody else. We need to claim what as American citizens is ours before it's taken away from us. And that's, in short, what I got from it. But yeah, I think we have a good opportunity to go up there with new information and new technology that other people that have tried in the past didn't have, or something happened, and now with an actual open mining claim that Gary has and all of our stuff that we know, and I think we've got more of a chance than anybody ever has had in the past to go up there and have success. So, that's my 2 cents.
I don't want no applause when I'm through.
Have it before.
I usually don't like this because I usually say things that stick my foot in my mouth.
Hey, I got something that you might wanna put into this, because both you guys are skinny. So, and the slaves, you saw the pictures of them. Some of those caverns that they
He's
had to
stocky,
crawl
I'm
in,
skinny.
or whatever, if you weren't thin, you wouldn't get through them.
Yeah.
Or where the bitch of it. So you can tell them, because maybe not all these people are gonna be skinny enough to be like those slaves were. So you can say, hey, if you find it, and you don't think you can get down to get it, then,
Call him.
then you can probably hire somebody on a contingency to have them go get it for you.
Well, I'm gonna say a few things that kind of led me into this kind of stuff, if that's
Beautiful.
okay.
But you might wanna throw that in someplace.
Being thin and fitting in places where most people can't. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's-
when you read the story about my son getting lost for 5.5 hours down in the dam, and the one that was left open because
The glory hole?
they couldn't cover it up, because the others they've covered up, but that one they couldn't cover up. And so, that one, he describes what happens when you get into something that you don't know a damn thing about and haven't got any experience about. And so, in the agreement, we promise that we're gonna have qualified personnel that have already checked out your fine to make sure that when you go down to get it, or you delegate somebody to get your share, that everything's safe and appropriate, whatever. So, okay, go ahead.
Well, I've said this before, growing up in Arizona, my backyard, we used to play around in the Superstition Mountains and mainly go up there searching for snakes, and we used to, that was our fun, shooting rattlers and rabbits. And one day my brother came home and he said, hey, I need you to come up with me because I have this friend that has this mine up in the Superstitions, and he can't fit in it, but I can. And he's 4 years older than me, and he was thin like me, and so he says, I need someone to lay down and have you go down and check some things out. So we went up there and we spent probably 4 days up there, and I just loved it. It was really exciting. It was scary at the same time, but I loved the adrenaline. And on the way out, we panned and we found some gold, and I've made a gold ring out of it over all these years. But living in Utah, I've always heard about the Rhodes mine, and I lived in Duchesne for 4 years and worked up on the Upper Stillwater Dam, and I talked to a lot of people that lived up there, and all these stories that they talked about, all of the treasure that people had found, and this and that, but most of it was on Indian land, is what they said. And I've read some of the books, Footsteps in the Wilderness, and different other books, and it was all pretty much, you don't want to get caught on Indian land. And then all of a sudden I started working up around Camas, and I met people that had talked about the Josephine mine up around Hoyt's Peak. And I'd been up there 4 or 5 times, just kind of cruising around, checking out the beautiful scenery. And then recently I've come across Gary Holt and Terry Carter talking to Gary. And I got really enthused about it and started coming to these meetings. And now I'm really enthused about it, from all of the information and details and the description that Gary has looked into and just spent so much time on, and the things that he has gone through. My buddy and I, we've always wanted to get our own claim, and I think before the summer's out, we're going to be getting our own claim so that we can kind of do our own thing, as well as Gary, and maybe we can help others realize that the government has been stopping people from getting this because they don't want the American people to know certain things. And I've always been told about that, and all of the conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff. So this is my opportunity, I think, to go up and, if anything, just have a great adventure. So, but I think there's a light around the at the end of the tunnel here, and I'm just really excited to get up there and do some searching, some excavating, and do some work. And I think because of my size, I think if and when we get to a small little place in the rocks and things, I don't have any problem being like a little pack rat and going around and getting down inside some of these caverns. I just kind of love that stuff. So I've never been claustrophobic. And so if you have claustrophobia, I wouldn't recommend doing that, but
Then they can go along the trails with their metal detector and find gold.
that's another good thing is metal detecting. I've found,
There's plenty of trails up there that they'll probably find gold in. So if they don't wanna go down, they can just go horizontal.
yeah,
And still find their acre of diamonds.
yeah, the way he talks, you know, the way that the Spaniards move the mules back and forth on these trails, good possibility bars could have fallen out or just ore of any kind. And while I'm down in the tunnels, I have a couple of metal detectors. One goes down 15 feet, it's a 2-box cache finder, and another one's just good for 10, 12 inches. You know, it's just a regular little Cabela's cheap $400 unit. But you know what? I found Walkman radios and I found all kinds of things out deer hunting and elk hunting and just prospecting up in the mountains, but I've yet to find a gold bar. So hopefully,
Or
you know,
gold ore.
or any kind of precious metals. I've taken my ring, thrown it down, I know what the sound is like, and you have to learn how the metal detectors work, because each kind of metal, tin, or whatever has its own little sound, and so you have to kind of play with that a little bit. So and that's about all I have. I'm just excited about going up and checking this out. I think it's going to be a real exciting, adventurous, and hopefully a profitable summer.